thank you very much for joining us on the Voice of Job Seekers video series. This is the summer series I've been doing now for the past month and a half. And some of you will get it much later and you'll find some value in it. Today I have a very special guest, Paris Cutler of pariscutler.com. How are you?
I'm so well and so happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for joining me on the show. Now, I've known Paris for about 3 years now. I think it's about 3 years. And Paris, where are you from?
Sydney, Australia.
Yes, what we call, I guess everybody calls down under.
Down under.
Yes, 15-hour difference between here in Chicago and Sydney, Australia. But Paris is a business and career coach. But even more special, I want you to give a little bit of background. I don't usually ask people their background because people can go and see, but they'll understand why this might be a little bit different than all the others that I tend to interview and talk to on a regular basis.
Okay, so my background is I started off in stockbroking as a trader. I was a bit of a kind of square peg in a round hole. A lot of you might be able to relate to that. So I was trying to find my dream career. I thought I'd make a lot of money. That's what I wanted to do. That didn't suit me. So then I ended up doing a law degree. That didn't suit me. And then I really just pursued my real passion, which was to be an entrepreneur. I bought a tiny little cake shop in 2001. And I managed to transform that cake shop into a #1 national brand in Australia, and it went global. And I had the biggest cake decorating school in the Southern Hemisphere. And it's kind of like the Cake Boss, but for the Southern Hemisphere. And so I had my own TV show. I published 5 books. And what I discovered my real skill is strategy. Now, I was ready to go into my next business. So I'd finished with that in 2014. I'd really had enough of cakes. If I had to look at another cake, I was going to kind of, do something terrible. And so I was about to go into my next business. And then I just saw this real gap in the market in terms of this huge shift and pivot and change in terms of how people were getting jobs and how businesses were struggling to stand out. And I recognized that I had the skill and talent in brand creation and strategy to really help these people, and hence what I'm doing now, which is really around career and business strategy.
Right. Now, when you strategize with your clients, mostly you're strategizing from both sides, from perhaps the hiring side and also those who are looking for new opportunities, and perhaps executives or people who are seeking the upper level of management as opposed to the mid to lower career level.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
What I really specialize in is turning people into #1 brands, whether they're working for a company and they're an entrepreneur, or whether they're a business. They usually come to me because they're plateaued, as you said, or they're failing to thrive, or they've just hit a ceiling, or they feel that they've got these talents that are not being utilized in this career they're particularly in. That's what I specialize in. People coming to me saying, I need a career change, but I just don't know where to next. So some of my clients, it's probably better to give you some examples. I had a lawyer that came to me really desperately unhappy from family law. I turned her business into a workplace bullying expert in mediation, dealing with workplace bullying investigations. She's absolutely in 7th heaven, and she's now one of the leading experts in Australia. I had a communications expert come to me, and I basically transformed her into a kind of Rebrand Australia campaign person that advises CEOs on legacy. So what I tend to do in the career part of what I do is I entrepreneur them. So I go in there and I say, I'm not interested in your career and what a career coach might tell you. What I'm interested in is what makes you really special and what you can offer a company. So I look at them like a business. And as an entrepreneur, I then say to them, this is how you would market yourself. And these are the type of companies that would be really interested in hiring you. And this is where you could thrive. Because I'm coming from a business perspective.
Sure. More or less, you help them become what I call a consultant in their area.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually got that from you. I love that. Think like a consultant.
Well, I think what it is that, branding could be talked about as a really strategic, intentional path that people can go down to, and to understand what the core parts of their what the expectations are, or they can go and talk about it, or approach it nebulously without really establishing a firm foundation. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, to me, it's almost like there's a building in San Francisco that,
Mm-hmm.
instead of um, putting the foundation in the bedrock, they put it in the earth, in the soil. So
Mm.
the building shifts a little bit to the right, and because it shifted, it has lost its value. There are people who have it;
Right.
they can't resell their condos anymore in it. So, and
Yeah.
we call it Millennial Tower, and
Right.
it's kind of a lot like that, because people don't find a foundation in their branding. uh,
Mm.
they begin to shift, and no
Mm.
telling how that shift will affect the other buildings around it, or
Mm.
whether that they'll be able to find somebody to be interested. But nobody's not going to be interested in a leaning building, just like nobody's not going to be as much as interested in a branding that's not solid in
Yeah.
bedrock.
Yeah. I also find I'm really surprised because I've been an entrepreneur for 2 decades now. And
Hmm.
so, I run to the beat of my own drum.
Yeah.
I get really surprised at how toxic a lot of the environments people have worked in,
Hmm.
and the impact that bad bosses or being in the wrong job can have on people's identity and view of themselves.
Yeah.
So I find a lot of people coming to me that aren't actually working to their natural strengths. And
Hmm.
when you remind them, this is actually what you're really good at. Like, you're really good at building relationships. This is where you add value. You absolutely shine when you do this. Suddenly a little bell goes on. Wow, I do remember that. That's what I was going to, well, that's what we're going to market the heck out of you. Because
Yeah.
when you do that, you're in flow. You're,
Yeah.
and you're in your genius then. So we need
Yeah.
to package you up like that. Otherwise, you're going to have more of these jobs that are draining and demoralizing. So I think that it's really difficult when you're in the inside to have a look at yourself, isn't it? And
It
to
is. It is.
to see what's special about you and what sets you apart. I think that that is the advantage of having a coach or a mentor. But also, you can go. I recommended to someone last week that came to me as a pro bono, and I just said, go around to people that you've worked with and ask how you add value to them. I think you might be really surprised.
Right. And I think sometimes you just need somebody else to tell you
Yeah.
that you add value in that way, and you need some points of validation. Not that
Yeah.
you need to please anybody, but you want to find out, you know, the magic touch.
Mm.
Where do you actually make magic? Uh,
Yep.
and everybody makes it in different ways, and most people don't realize where they do or how they do until
Yep.
somebody has told them, or that they see there's a revelation somewhere along the line. So I know that you're strategic in the way that you approach this.
Mm.
Well, what are some of the core things that people can do? We talked about branding, we talked about marketing. Those are
Mm.
two key points.
Mm.
Most people will get on board with the brand part,
Mm.
but they find it very hard to get on the marketing part. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and marketing yourself is difficult, and I get it. So I give people the introvert's guide to marketing because I'm
Hmm.
an introvert and I
Right.
hate selling myself. It's so embarrassing. I'm
Hmm.
a real like pearl clutcher, if you can see
Hmm.
me right now with you. I'm very conservative. I'm quite quiet. And
Hmm.
so, what I like to do is, I really like to use LinkedIn, and I use a lot of pro bono work because I'm not a go to a party type of person. I'm not pick up the phone and like invite someone out to coffee. They are the best ways of doing it. And if you're an extrovert, knock yourself out doing that. But I'm not. And so, I'm not going to advise you to do it if it makes you feel uncomfortable. And during these times, it's not possible anyway.
Right.
But what I like to do is, I really like to add value to people. And so on LinkedIn, I do that by supporting other people's content, direct messaging them, telling them that I loved a piece that they did, sending people links, organizing little Zoom chats, and introducing myself, LinkedIn is just an absolute, it's a powerhouse, a networking powerhouse. I don't have to leave my lounge room, and I'm hosting webinars, doing speaking gigs, and getting work from all around the world because of LinkedIn. It is beyond belief powerful.
And you've done this mostly in the past 3 years, right?
Well, yeah, I didn't really start taking LinkedIn seriously for about 12 months. So,
Mhm.
and when I first started, I was hopeless. So I would put up a post and I'd just get crickets. Maybe one of my friends would come along and like it, and that was it. Nothing was happening.
Yeah.
And I felt very uncomfortable on the platform. I wasn't very comfortable with social media. But since then, I've kind of developed a formula and I understand it. Like any social media platform, it has its own cultural norms, as you would know very well,
Mhm.
and it has its way of networking. And I think that the big mistake is people approach it like a Facebook or people approach it like an Instagram, and LinkedIn isn't like that at all.
Mm.
LinkedIn is a networking platform, so you have to work the digital room on LinkedIn. And by doing that, so I did that for 3 months before I posted again. And I now have a really quite a large network that I really enjoy interacting with, and it brings me work and brings opportunities to me.
Yeah. And
Um,
and I think too is that you don't take for granted at all. Now, I want
mm,
to give a little context to some of your background. You kind of
yeah,
passed by it, but your cake company is truly global. Now, from
yeah,
what I remember, some of your clients have been like Rihanna, right?
yes, that's true.
Keith Urban,
Yes,
um, and there were some others that kind of those are the first two that,
yes,
but
yeah,
you had a true global business.
yep,
People, you were the go-to person, so
yeah.
you knew what that's like, but yet you told us, I know that you are, but you told us that you're an introvert.
Yes, yes. So I tell you how I do it, how I build brands, and it's such a powerful way, but it takes longer and everyone wants something immediately. But it's
Mhm.
the same way you find your dream job. You do it one person at a time. So I'll give you a great story about that.
Okay.
I had someone come into my cake shop. She was dressed a bit shabbily and she was a bit kind of demanding. She was a nice lady, but she was a bit off and she didn't have much money to spend. So my cakes average sailed about $3,000 each. I'm not going to go into that side of my story now,
Okay.
but I can hear you all drop the mic on the other side there,
Right.
but no.
Right.
And she had $100 to spend, right? So we weren't going to make any money out of her. Most people would consider her to be a bit of a pest, and she wanted something special for her husband's birthday. Anyway, it didn't matter. Because I do things one person at a time, I build experiences and brands one person at a time. She was an opportunity. And so I just thought, even if she goes out and tells a couple of people, it's worth my time. So I
Mhm.
invested in her. I did something special for her. We made no money out of her. She was a little bit painful, but she went out happy as Larry. I gave her 5-star service and I really spent some time with her. I could on that particular day. I'm not saying to ignore real
Right.
business by
Right.
doing stuff like that. Anyway, a year passes. I didn't give that lady a single thought. And Celine Dion's management called and wanted me to not only make Celine Dion's cake, 40th birthday cake, but to come and meet her and meet all her staff and meet her husband and work with her group and work with her tour group. And that was a huge job for us. And Celine Dion was probably my favorite celebrity that I met, all from that lady with the $100 cake from the year before.
Yeah.
Now, now the power of that story is you never know who you're speaking to. You
Yeah.
never know who they know, and you
Yes.
never know when it's going to come back to you. But it's all just one person at a time.
Yeah. And I think one of the great things that you did, I would have liked to think that I would approach it like that. I'm not sure if I would have, but um, uh, because your um, serving was
Serving.
at the top of mind, that it was an opportunity to serve, uh,
Yeah.
that you offered value and it made its way back.
Yeah.
Um, was the main thing I probably got the most out of. And because you do that, because, and I can say that about you because I've seen you over the years now, where
Yeah.
you give, you comment, you like, you offer. I mean, it's just help, 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 help. I don't know when I've seen you ask for anything, which is, and that's the right way of doing it, because most people are looking to have that magic question at the magic time
Mm,
to have the moment where the stars and the moon
mm,
align, and it doesn't
mm,
happen that way. It's going to
mm.
happen because it's like one brick at a time. It's not very sexy, but
Yeah.
after you do it for a while, you do build something,
Yeah, and I think maybe social media has kind of given that now looks very old fashioned and like hard work and that it
right?
takes too long. And we watch people blow up on social media really quickly. I
Hmm.
work with a lot of influencers. That's part of my job is making people famous because I was able to do it for myself and so I do it for other people.
Right.
And what I can tell you is that many of them blow up and blow away just as quickly. There's no longevity there. And it's all just kind of marketing fluff. There's very little monetization in the back end.
Mm-hmm.
And there's very few people that are able to make it work for themselves. What I have seen is the best strategy is the one I just gave, which is person by person by person. And
Yeah.
it's amazing how deep it goes. It goes on for years. I've got people giving me favors now that I did a favor for 12 years ago. It just goes on and on.
It does. It really does. But I think again, you have a foundation,
Yeah,
and the foundations, and again, using my analogy, the foundations in the bedrock. It's not
yeah,
just in the sand. It's not just in the soil. When it's in the bedrock, it's there, and
yeah,
it doesn't move with the wind. Doesn't move with much turbulence. It
yeah,
is something that it grounds, and you use this process constantly. And I think you
yeah.
use it even unconsciously at this particular point.
Yeah, yeah, I do. I mean, I'm not going to get all religious on you, but I don't believe anything's by accident. God looks after me, and everyone that's put in my path
Mhm.
is put there for a reason, and
Yeah.
I'm there to serve Him.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of just my life. So I
Yeah.
just wake up each day and just think, wow, what's on today? So
Yeah.
I guess if I was a job seeker right now and, I have started businesses and whatever, I think I work 40 to 50 hours a week, right? Just because I don't have a job doesn't mean I'm not working.
Right.
So I would be out saying, well, who am I going to be adding value to today? Can I work pro bono for someone? Can I help my friend with their business? Can I be operating in a charity? Can I be doing I do about 2 hours work on LinkedIn a day networking. That's what it takes.
Hmm.
Where can I devote my time to LinkedIn today? So I guess that's kind of the way I approach things. Like whether I'm getting paid for it or not, I still
Hmm.
work,
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
serve.
Yeah. And I think that's solid. It's harder for some people to do than others because they
Much harder.
have a limiting belief about their ability, and
Yeah.
the way they come across. They're thinking about their insecurities.
Yeah.
They're thinking, well, maybe I really don't want to do. I don't want to do all of that. That may be true, but if you want all of that,
Yes.
and you don't do all of that, you can't have it both ways, right?
Yeah, I have a lot of that really surprised me that people have limiting beliefs about themselves. I know that that sounds really naive, but I just think to myself, why? Why would you think that about yourself? Everybody has something wonderful to offer.
Sure.
I've never met a single person that doesn't have something special about them. I met a young man the other week that was like that. And at the end of the day, we worked out that what he was really brilliant at was interpreting data, and he could do that at home, not interacting with anyone, and still shine like a star.
Hmm.
You don't have to kind of do what I advise to do in terms of human interaction. Just start off nice and easy, just because the more you go out there and just nibble at little bits, and LinkedIn is such a good way to go out there and just nibble at little bits. You can do it while you're sitting in your pajamas. You don't have to put yourself right out there. Your confidence will build, and it builds and it builds. I left school, I wasn't brilliant, and I certainly didn't have much confidence in myself. And I came from kind of, the suburbs in Sydney, and I was very uncool. I am still so uncool. Like, if someone's going to put their foot in their mouth, it'll be me.
Hmm.
Um, but over time, and that's why I advise to add value, because people really appreciate that.
Hmm.
Just, adding value, being helpful, not trying to be cool, not trying to have the right personal brand, not trying to be, look mega successful, but just adding value at what you're good at.
Hmm.
People really remember and appreciate that.
Sure.
And just bite off a little bit.
It's the
Just,
syndrome is I am what I am. And
yeah,
I've just got to be comfortable enough to present it to the world.
yeah,
It doesn't take a lot of polishing, if any at all, for most people to realize it. I mean, people think when you first say brand, they think, oh, it's Celine Dion, or
yeah,
they think Rihanna.
yes,
But
yeah,
but it's not. People are kind of, they think of someone else so big and they think of themselves so small,
yeah,
that you know it, it takes time, and you
yeah.
got to give yourself time, but it also just take having a vision. Just there's no one way to get there, and you might need a coach, you might need somebody who has one way to get there, but
Yeah.
that's not going to be your way either, even if they're a good coach.
Oh, I 100% agree with that. And in fact, it has to be suitable to your personality type and your inclination. There's no point in giving someone a big full on personal branding and networking strategy if they're an introvert and they're not comfortable with that. I
Right.
think the simplest way to look at it is just pick your top three values. Mine are collaboration, kindness, and education.
Mm.
And I just go out there, and if every person I meet says, wow, that Paris is just so helpful, and I learned something today, and I love being on her team or, collaborating with her, that's a win.
Yeah, and I think people should look for this. Start with the smaller wins. If you got on and made a
Mm.
comment today, that's a win. Um,
Yeah.
and stop looking at the peripheral stuff that everybody else does, because people, you know, views and likes and all those things are, they're not all as they cracked up to be. In fact, there are times when I didn't have any likes at all, but somebody was
Yeah.
sitting what I did because of what I said. So not
Yeah.
everything that's going to be brilliant is going to receive like or 100 likes or 1,000 likes. Those are rare. It gets into your face because LinkedIn's algorithm shows the 1,000 likes or
Yeah.
the 500 likes, and most people, probably 99% of the rest of us, don't get that at all, if at any time. So don't get discouraged because you're not getting those things. Look for places where you can add value and think of that as a win more so than what you're getting.
I would actually say, I mean, I post about 3 or 4 times a week on LinkedIn, and I actually look after a couple of my clients are big LinkedIn influencers, so nearly 1 million followers, and they post every day. And we would all agree that the most important thing about LinkedIn is commenting on other people's posts and networking rather than posting. That's where the power is.
Hmm.
So I actually notice people that comment on my posts all the time and interact with me all the time
Hmm.
rather than what people post. I'm noticing the connections. A lot of people will direct message me, ask me for help or advice, or send me something or comment on a post that I made. They're the people I notice, is the people that are interacting in my feed. So don't think that that's not valuable, and don't think that influencers don't notice. They really, really do. And on that note, I've actually got something brand new that I just created that
Okay.
I'm happy to give to your listeners. And that is, I developed something called the ACE method for LinkedIn, which is how to get likes and interaction on your posts when you post. So it's a free resource. But ACE stands for algorithm, content, and engagement. It's just a method to make sure that you do have one or two, that you don't put it up there and it's crickets like I experienced, that you do actually get some interaction, and obviously making sure that people, connect with you on LinkedIn, connect with me and other guests that you have on your podcast, because knowing where they've heard about me, I'm going to start following them and interacting with them because I care about you as my friend. And so all of your listeners I'm going to care about. And
Yeah.
that's how a network works.
Yes,
It's
it does.
just,
It does. And, um, it's rare when people reach out to you and all they want to do is give, and they don't ask a single thing. And
yeah.
Paris, I can really say that about you is that I think it was you reached out to me,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and because of an old interview, no
Mm.
less.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and you've been a giver. That's all I know. Like I said, I rarely see you ask. So this is really the first time I think I've seen you ask for something, which is
Oh.
remarkable. So I'll be sure you pass that link to me, and I'll make sure it's available. It'll
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah. I just think,
on
it's
YouTube.
free, and it might be helpful to your listeners, but I mean, I do think it's as simple as that. So I listened to an interview that you did. I found you on LinkedIn. I reached out, never knew you from Adam, and I DM'd you
Right.
and said, I loved your interview. I'm really impressed by you. You're doing great things in the career space or something like that. I remember it because I remember the interview and I honestly believed that.
Yeah.
And you responded, and that was the beginning of a friendship. So I guess for your listeners, it really is as simple as that.
Yep. And we're 15 hours apart. Uh,
I know we're really isolated down here.
right. So people can get a hold of you at pariscutler.com, correct?
Correct. That's correct.
And if I'll be sure to also, um, as this gets published on YouTube and in the fall, it'll be published on a podcast.
Hmm.
Be sure that I include your LinkedIn link as well as your website so that people can connect
Sure.
with you as well. But thank you, Paris, for coming on. It's an honor to
Thank you.
meet you in real life, as they say. Uh,
Oh,
and for the rest of you, thank you very much. You know, this series is going to continue throughout the summer, and I'll be having some more interviews next week. Thanks.
wonderful.